Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day today. We're going to work on some problem solving today. I can't give you every single type of problem that there ever will be, but here's three more difficult problems. A word problem, a problem with area, and then we're going to do a problem that's a little more difficult. And then, I'm going to give you some chances to do them on big ideas. If you have any questions on these, since they are a little more difficult, please attend Open Meet today or write down your questions on the Google Doc. So let's get started here. So it says the period p in seconds of a pendulum is given by the function p equals 2 pi times the square root of L divided by 32, where L is the pendulum length in feet. What is the length of a pendulum that has a period of 2.5 seconds? So probably the first thing you're wondering is, what is a pendulum? Some of you might know. Pendulum looks like this. It's just something hanging on a bob here and a wire and a length of a wire, and it just goes back and forth and swings. So all we're trying to figure out here, it says, what is the length of a pendulum that has a period of 2.5 seconds? So with these types of problems, with these types of word problems, what they're going to do is they're going to give you a formula, and that has probably two variables. They're going to give you the value of the other variable, and then you have to solve for the one they're not giving you. So, there could be three variables and they give you two and you have to solve for that other one. So it's just understanding which they're looking for. So they want to know the length. So that's L. So that means we don't know what L is. And we know that the period, which is P, is 2.5 seconds. So I know that I'm going to have 2.5 equals 2 pi times the square root of L over 32. So for this, I'm going to use the pi button on the calculator to work with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide here both sides by 2 pi. And so 2.5 divided by 2 pi is about 0.39788. There's a bunch of different things here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually clear my calculator. I'm going to use my answer to keep going to the next line. So I'm just going to write a couple of things here that's on the calculator. But whenever you have to round something, it's best to not delete the row above. You want to just keep working with it. So right now we have this equals the square root of L over 32. Now on my calculator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides. So I am just going to put answer squared. So to do that, I press the second button on my calculator and then the negative sign on the bottom, and you see ANS, that stands for answer, that's the previous answer. Then I press the squared button, and it gives me about 0.1583 and change. Again, I'm not going to clear that for my calculator. I'm going to write this down here just so I can see visually what's happening, but I'm not going to actually round it yet until I get to the very end. Now at this part, I'm going to multiply both sides by 32. So on my calculator, I'm just going to press times 32, and so it brings the answer up from the previous line. And my final answer is 5.066. So my final answer is going to be 5.07, or I could say about 5. So I could say about 5 feet, which is a very large pendulum, 5 feet. Or I can say, if they said round to the nearest hundredth, I would say 5.07 with my answer. Okay, so that's that type of word problem. The next thing we're going to talk about is, sometimes they're going to ask you maybe to find the value of x given an area or perimeter of a shape. So, first you have to remember how to find the area of a perimeter of each shape. In this case, we're given the area of a triangle and the dimensions of a triangle, and we're asked to find the value of x. So for this one here, the area of a triangle, hopefully you remember, is 1/2 times base times height. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1/2 times the base, which is 4, times the height, which is the square root of 3x plus 4. And I'm going to put that equal to the square root of 10x plus 24. So the first thing I can do is I can multiply 1/2 times 4, which is 2. And that gives me 2 times the square root of 3x plus 4. It's equal to the square root of 10x plus 24. And so now what we're going to do, since we can't isolate the radical signs anymore, we're going to square both sides. So I'm going to square this side here. I'm going to square this side here. So when I square this, 2 times the square root of 3x plus 4 times 2 times the square root of 3x plus 4 would wind up becoming 4 times 3x plus 4. Since we're not adding or subtracting here, this is just one term, so basically if you remember the rules of this, both things are being squared. So 2 squared is 4, and the square root of 3x plus 4 squared is just 3x plus 4. If there's a plus or minus sign here, I'd have to do the FOIL method, I'd have to do double distributive property, but I don't have to do that for this one because it's just one term. And the other side is just going to drop the radical sign and become 10x plus 24. So I'll distribute this. I get 12x plus 16 equals 10x plus 24. So then we get the variable on the same side by subtracting 10x from both sides. And we'll subtract 16 from both sides. And we get 2x equals 8. So x equals 4. You always plug that back into the original, make sure it's true. Square root of 16 would be 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Half of 16 is 8. And then if you plug in 4 here, that'd be square root of 64, which is also 8. So it does work. For this problem here, so this is one of those more difficult problems, is solve for x. What we have going on here is now we have 2 minus the square root of x plus 1 equals the square root of x plus 2. So at this point, I can't isolate the radical sign anymore. So I'm going to have to square both sides. Now, unlike from before, when we squared when there was one term, we just squared both things inside of there. But now there's 2 terms. So now we have to do the FOIL method. So now we're going to have 2 minus the square root of x plus 1 times 2 minus square root of x plus 1. And we're going to have to do the double distributive property. So we get 2 times 2 is 4, negative 2 times the negative square root of x plus 1, and then this one would be negative 2 times the square root of x plus 1, so we get negative 4 square root of x plus 1. And then when we multiply the last things here, we would get positive x plus 1. And now that would equal x plus 2. So now we combine like terms. We have here the 4 and the positive 1s. That would make 5. So we'll have negative 4 square root of x plus 1 plus x plus 5 equals x plus 2. At this point now, I will try to isolate the radical sign. So I'm going to subtract x and subtract 5 from both sides. And I get negative 4 square root of x plus 1 equals, well, the x's cancel out, and I'm left with negative 3. Now at this point, I can square both sides again. And I get 16 times x plus 1 equals 9. So 16x plus 16 equals 9. And then if I subtract 16, I would get negative 7. And then at this point, I divide both sides by 16, and I get x equals negative 7/16. All right, so that is our answer here. So x equals -7 over 16. So with these ones, a little more complicated. You have to use the FOIL method, and then you have to square twice, which is a little different. So I want you guys to try the online textbook problems. If you have any questions, please either come to an open meet or write it on the Google Doc.